Welcome back to U.S. Farm Report this weekend. Pete Meyer as well as Jared Creed joining us. Okay, Jared and Pete, we're hearing rumors that soybean processors for biofuels are starting to slow those purchases in preparation of possibly going idle, all because we're waiting on 45Z. Pete, is that true?
Well, we're not just waiting on 45Z. We're also waiting on any sort of biofuel credit that has not been renewed for the new year. Let me say this, Tyne. This political situation is beyond a civic discourse, or civil discourse, I should say, at this point, right? Jared and I have a new friend. It's an old friend of Jared's. This guy's been in the business for 40 years and grain trading. The first thing he said was, we have to find new demand for both of these products, whether it be corn or soybeans. We have to find new demand. And the second thing, and something that resonated with me, he said, the most dangerous situation going into next Tuesday would be if one party wins all three spots. Right? Wins the Senate, wins the House of Representatives, and wins the presidency. Because what happens there is that there is such a discourse amongst people that they're just going to force through, whatever they want. And that's very dangerous for the agricultural business. It really is. And so we don't have any idea what 45Z is going to say. We have no idea if we're going to see it in the first quarter of 25. We have no idea if we're going to see it at all.
Yeah, Jared. So if we do not get some of that clarity and some of those extensions that Pete was just talking about, what happens? I mean, we really do need to see some new demand here.
Most definitely we need to see new demand, but I don't think it necessarily is an end-all be-all tied to 45Z or even any of your fuel tax credits. We've had a building issue already that the worldwide producer, not just a U.S. producer now, is overproducing what the world needs, in essence. What happens if our largest customer in the world from a soybean front, being China, doesn't need the extra 20 to 30 million ton, the extra 500 to billion bushel of beans that we have every bit of ability to raise this next year? At this point in time, there's not a lot of reasons, in my opinion, for the rest of the world to be racing to the market presently to be purchasing beans, because of the size of the forecasted crop coming to us out of Brazil this next winter. And on top of that, you start sprinkling in the discourse that Pete is talking about domestically. It's just runs the risk of a major slowdown on your monthly demand of a product that in all reality is just becoming more plentiful supply in the next couple months or next 3 to 6 months. So what happens from all that? I kind of chuckle at the idea of 2 years ago, rapid inflation, and what's the new low price for corn and soybeans? And I think there maybe was a lot of belief, myself included at times, that maybe $5 corn was a new $4 corn, maybe $12 beans was a new $10 beans.
Pete, Brazil getting some rain this week. That kind of put some pressure early on soybeans. But should farmers be setting soybean marketing plans based on Brazilian weather and the seasonality? Should we be setting our corn marketing plans based on that?
The corn marketing plan, I think, is a little bit more difficult. But the soybean marketing plan, I really think you should really set that based on Brazilian seasonality. The fact of the matter is that, we've talked about this before, Tyne. We lost the soybean market 8 years ago to Brazil. Brazil is just going to continue to grow that. I mean, and their biggest buyer, as Jared just talked about, China, has their own economic issues as well, right? I mean, they had a $1.04 trillion stimulus package a month ago that did nothing. Now, next week, supposedly they're coming back with a $1.4 billion a $1 trillion stimulus package. I mean, the customer is the biggest customer in the world is pulling away, and Brazil is just going full bore. So I think, yes, as far as beans are concerned, just based on the export demand disappearing from the U.S., and you talked earlier about difficulties as far as renewable fuels are concerned, I think you have to really pay more attention to Brazil when you market your soybeans than you do in the U.S. Corn is a little bit more difficult because corn, we still have a fairly decent sized footprint in the market, in the export market.
Okay, well, I think it's real. Go ahead. If I could add in one piece there, what Tyne is talking about, the stimulus package in China, your news wires reporting on that here for the last week. I find it incredibly alarming that one of the first lines is the expectation that stimulus will be further bolstered in the event that President Trump returns to office? Are they showing their cards to us? Are they showing their concerns around what may happen from the result of whatever the election ends up being? That's alarming that, like Pete said, your world's largest customer from a bean front is maybe scrambling financially in the first place.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Okay. Well, with all the uncertainty that we've been talking about here, there's a lot of decisions that need to be made, especially in these economic times. What are some high level things you need to be thinking about as a producer? We're going to ask Jared that when we come back.